Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, Vlieger and Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. Hey listeners, I've got John Vlieger on the podcast today. He is a GM open shooter. He's won some area matches, and right now he works as professional services for Mark 7. So John, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Kenzie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's pretty bad. I can't remember how we met or when we met.
We probably shot together or nearby. I shoot between 10 and 20 major events every year. I hate saying it this way because it sounds like hoity-toity and all that, but like I get approached by people occasionally and say, hey man, yeah, we shot together back in yada yada, and I have to tell them, and I'm sure we had a great time. What is your name again? I've shot close to, I think, 100 major events since I started competing in 14, 15 time frame.
It's cool.
It all starts blending together, but no, there's some great people, and I do remember you. I don't know where from. But we did interact before today. Yes.
The cool thing is that you remember people's names. Not very many. We were talking about this. John's a pro. He wants to say semi-pro. He's a pro, but pros don't really remember the names of little people. But he did.
No, I dislike that mentality because I mean, you look at some of the people who come out of nowhere, and I kind of sort of was one of those people. I didn't come from established training or the AMU or anything like that. And, you start noticing these people that just start winning or start doing well, not even winning, but like, hey man, I keep seeing their name towards the top. Like, this is a amateur sport. This is not a professional sport. This is not covered by ESPN. We're talking about USPSA here.
Yeah.
This is an amateur sport where anybody can compete against the quote unquote pros, and the pro screws up or the amateur puts in a lot of work and has a great day, they kick their butt. And that's part of the reasons one of the reasons I love this sport is because that is always out there. You can't stop. You can't slack.
Yeah. I love it. It's always attainable. and
exactly. Attainable is a great way of putting it.
Yeah. And like the pros are important, but I feel like, I've heard this a lot. USPSA, the heart and soul of it is like the mid-pack shooters, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, so if we can segue a little bit here. Yep. So I'll use your term, fine. The pros, whatever, the super squatters, whatever you want to call it. So once you get to a certain point, you stop caring about, placing in your class or in your category or what have you. And that's not to say that your class win. I still have my first class win plaque, from 14 or what have you. But it's not that you don't care. It's that your focus is only on one thing. It is, all or nothing. Either you win or you don't. And I can't count, the amount of my peers and myself too. But after a major event, you're sitting there, drowning your sorrows, and someone's like, hey man, what are you upset about? You did great. It's like, yeah, but I didn't win. Or they say, yeah, but I didn't win. And I tell people I stopped shooting open division purely for fun 3 or 4 years ago. I haven't shot open because, strictly because it's fun in a long time. And it's because I'm the most competitive in it.
Right.
And it's where I have the most strengths. So, you shoot open because it's fun as hell. It can be fun, but I don't shoot it because of that purely.
Yeah. Makes you competitive.
It's because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. We totally got off segment, but I like that.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's great. This is how it goes on this podcast. I'd love to dive into your background a little bit. Because for those that don't know, like you've been competing again at the top, so they probably know you as like this competitive USPSA shooter, which is awesome. But also on the range, I noticed that you're very driven, self-discipline, you're focused and level-headed. And I'm guessing that probably came from your military background.
So I'm going to pause you real quick. That's because you've known me in the last few years. Okay. I started in this sport a little differently. I've calmed down a lot and become like what you just said, try to be more self-disciplined. I started in this sport. I think erratic is the most polite way of putting it. high energy is another way of putting it. I grew up a little bit and calmed down. But that's part of the reason that I was able to do what I did, is because I was high energy. I was, pushing it hard, and got to where I am today. But that comes with, like I said, maturing, growing up, and realizing that let me put it this way. Big event. I want to say I was shooting limited. So 2015, good friend of mine. I ended up in the top 5 at the SNS 400. And I was an A-class shooter at the time. And my club president shot it. He's a master, or was a master. And he asked me, he's like, hey man, it's like, what the hell? Like, did you go into every stage just wanting to win the stage? Like, did you push it every single stage? And I'm like, well, yeah. Like, that's what you have to do, right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to go fast. and it really comes into play there. But no, when I'm getting, you could say I was undiagnosed ADHD growing up, or, a lot of things that might be wrong with me. But the core of reason I shoot this sport, or I compete as much as I do, is because for those 5, 10, 20 seconds, whatever, that you're in between the beep and range is clear, there's no bills to pay. There's no appointments tomorrow. There's no, responsibilities. It's all you, that trigger, and the target. And I really took that to heart when I first started competing. But I had to level that out the last few years if I wanted to really attempt to win, if I wanted to try to get the focus down to make me competitive.
Yeah. Well, you've done really well at that then. I guess I didn't know you back then.
Yeah, no, but no, to answer your question, I did 10 years Army, Iraq twice, Afghanistan once, and joined in 06 right before the surge, did 14 months in Iraq for my first tour, and then Iraq 12 months with a different unit, and then Afghanistan 10 months. I volunteered for that one. That was out of Alaska. Wow. There's some, I wanted to see Afghanistan. I'd seen Iraq twice. I was kind of bored of it, and I wanted to see Afghanistan. I was airborne artillery. So I jumped out of airplanes a little bit and shot artillery here and there. I was fire direction, though. I was not a cannon cocker. Still didn't save me from minor hearing loss, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah. Got the 3 knee surgeries, and to prove it, from the jumping out of airplanes and that lifestyle. Medically, I've had 3 knee surgeries, 2 wrist surgeries on my right wrist, and a few things here and there. But I tell people I have between 3 and 5 years left of competing at this level, just due to, you break your body down. I've already broken my body down. Now I'm, going down the other end of the slope here, and I'm hoping to get the most out of it.
Oh man, what was the risk for? I saw your recovery for that for a long while too. That looked gnarly, by the way.
So without going into the nitty gritties here, it was a second surgery. Luckily, a guy I shot with and had a lot of mutual friends with in Lexington, Kentucky area, was also the best hand surgeon in Kentucky, Steve Umansky. And he consults with the VA and did both my surgeries. It was amazing having somebody who not only was trusted, but someone who knew what I was going to be using that limb for and was able to give me realistic expectations. Yep. But no, the most recent surgery, the video watchers can see the wonderful straight line I have in my forearm. First surgery was a simple go in the wrist joint, clean it up. Second surgery was not only going into the wrist joint and cleaning it up, but also cutting the ulna, which is your pinky side arm bone, and taking a wafer out of it to shorten it, to try and prevent impact with my wrist bones, and then putting in they cut it, take a chunk out, plate it, and then I had that by around Thanksgiving last year and couldn't pull a trigger until about the end of February, but it was the right decision. I still have a little bit of pain, but not while I'm shooting.
Yeah. Whew. That's brutal, dude. I couldn't, that's a long scar.
No, it was the right decision to make.
Yeah.
A combination of it being an idiot teenager, 10 years service, and then, shooting a lot. So I've been asked that question a lot. Like, why did I have the surgery? Was it carpal tunnel? Everyone thinks it was carpal tunnel. No,
right.
It was essentially it was my wrist impacting with my arm bones that caused, damage. So yeah. It was the simplest way of putting it.
It's cool though that you had a doctor that cared. A lot of people in the sport too, like we talk a lot about prescription eyewear, right? People mm-hmm. need to work with doctors. Hey, this is why I need to see the sites and my target and this and the dot or whatever. And so many doctors not so many, but a lot of them aren't gun friendly. You can't go in like with the firearm or with your sights. And there are people that do allow that. I'm like, how cool would that be to talk and work with a doctor who knows and gets what you need for your body or for your eyes or for your hands? That's cool.
On that note, you're a fan as well as I am. A Hunter's HD Gold. Brian Conley is great. I'm lucky in the fact I don't need prescriptions lenses yet.
Yeah, same.
Yet. Yeah, I'm negative 0.25 in the right eye, which is as of a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. So I will need lenses eventually, but not yet. Yeah. But when that time comes, I'll be hitting up Brian. I wear his glasses, his lenses, custom lenses in Oakley frames. I have a set of rubies as well as a set of the traditional golds, and it's all I use. I was wearing rubies today for the 3 hours of training I did with my friend and coworker, Tom Carlson.
Oh, that's awesome. I was gonna say the rubies are a game changer for me as well. I probably was one of the last ones to really get onto the rubies. I prefer those over golds now. I'm obsessed with them. I mean, obviously on a bright day it works, but
exactly bright day. The golds are applicable no matter what. The rubies down here, it was 93 degrees here in Florida today, bright, partly cloudy, and the rubies really make a difference when it comes to just making you feel more comfortable with your eyes. Yeah. But anywho, to answer your question you asked about 5 minutes ago, military service did help with my I will say training planning, or being able to identify and some people take really detailed notes on their training. Hey, I did XYZ on this day. I did ABC on this day. I'm not that deep into it. However, being able to take a step back, review your performance from a objective point of view, and identify key facts that you need to work on. Years ago, it was loading to a big stick, 170. Yeah. More recently, I'm noticing that I over transition on close targets. If it's going target 1, target 2, 2 shots each, I'll have a nice tight group in the Charlie on that second target because of that. So being able to identify that and then make a plan to work on it. Yes, I do take that from the military. I take my, I'd learned a lot about structure in the Army, and getting out of the Army, as a lot of vets will tell you, that's the number one thing that you miss about it is the structure, knowing where you stand, on a one-on-one basis with any other person, and having structure for your week. I do not miss waking up at 4:30 in the morning to make it to the meetings. But no, the Army gave me a lot to build on. They gave me the foundation of being an adult and being a man.
That's amazing. I think that's beautiful. Well said. I was gonna say I would hate the waking up and all that, but like going back to like that and like coaches, I never was military, but I like that they made me eat the right food, do the workouts. Like it was like required, and I was the best shape of my life. I need that. But what did you do after you actually transitioned out of the military?
I worked an odd job for a few weeks, and then I ended up at a commercial lawn care place, and it was all right money. It was close to the house, but it was kind of funny because I didn't know how an internal combustion engine operated before I worked there, and I left with above base level knowledge, and it was great. I ended up actually working with another artillery vet while I was there. He was my mechanic, and ended up going from there, and I was seeing, hey, I was getting bored, needed to do something. It was only ever meant to be a bridge job, like get me from A to B for the time being. Ended up being there about a year and a half, and I saw an opening on a Facebook group of all places that Shooters Connection was hiring, and talked to the wife real quick. It's like, hey, you'd have to move 3 hours away, but what do you think? And she was all for it, and applied and had a phone interview 2 days later, and started there about 3 weeks after that. And I can honestly say, trying to sell a house and buy a house at the same time, I never want to do that again. My credit cards were maxed out, and I was driving back and forth every weekend to see the wife and dogs and get the house ready to sell. Right. During the week, I was working and then looking for houses. It was something I never want to repeat again, but I ended up with, I wouldn't say my dream property, but close to it, 18 acres in northern Kentucky. And I built my own pistol pit, and while working at Shooters Connection, so I have a 20 by 20 yard pit. I can shoot into my heart's content, and I can shoot to about 100 yards into the pit. If I clear some trees, I could shoot to $150, 200.
Awesome.
But it was all based upon I didn't want to compromise anymore. If I was going to take this sport seriously, and not just the sport, but the industry seriously, if I was going to try and make this my career, make this my passion, then I needed to stop compromising and be able to, at a moment's notice, hey, I need to shoot some rounds. I need to go train. I need to film a video after work. I need to, what have you. I needed the resources to do it, and to do it well and do it effectively. So those 18 acres are my pride and joy. And I don't like people. I mean, I like our people. I like, the like-minded people. That's fine. But the unwashed masses, so to speak, are not for me. So living in a suburb, I was blessed in my previous house. It was all military or retired military.
We're a family.
Family, but quiet family.
Yep.
And then being, my folks asked me, don't your neighbors like care or call the cops? And I'm like, no, they shoot too.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, there's nothing that people say they have freedom. There ain't no freedom like being able to do a mag dump in your backyard at midnight.
Exactly.
Okay? But no, Shooters Connection was great. I was there 3.5 years, and people ask me what I did there. Everyone does the same thing at Shooters Connection. While I was there, everyone does a little bit of purchasing. Everyone does a little bit of inventory management. Everyone does answering the phones, order inputting, and picking orders and sending them out the door. But that crew there, I still talk to them. Some of them more than others, weekly at minimum. They're family to me. The Shooters Connection was the best time I'd had in my adult life. Period. I mean,
job too. It didn't feel like a job, I'm sure.
Exactly. No, the thing I told Chuck Bradley, the owner, before I left is it's like, Chuck, thank you. I've this was the first job I've had in my adult life where I did not fear coming to work ever. I'm not talking fear like, oh no, I'm afraid, but like, oh man, I gotta go to work. This is bullshit. It was a great environment. You'd get some customers with unrealistic expectations every once in a while,
of course,
but it was great. I had the freedom to try to bring products into Shooters Connection, which are still being sold there today. KKM hybrid barrels, for example, that was a project I worked on. The binary compensators, best-selling compensator at Shooters Connection, at least when I left, for open guns, that was my project, so on and so forth. I'm able to pull up a website and see my efforts still really going to this day. Yep. So, but that and the freedom to shoot.
Yeah, that's the dream. I was gonna say it's the same thing with working with Hunters HD Gold. It's like I can help with that, and this is not, it doesn't feel like work. I love the product. That's the coolest thing, right? Is when you work with a place or a company that can be innovative, and try new things and believe in you, and you see the work live.
Exactly. Yeah, see the fruits of your labor.
Absolutely.
That was one of the things that drew me to going from Shooters Connection to Mark 7 is seeing a company that innovates. I'd go back to work at Shooters Connection if need be in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But seeing the growth, the innovation, and the stellar products that are coming out of Mark 7, it was for those who don't know, I owned serial number 2 Evolution Press. I was a very early adopter, and they had some issues when they first launched, but seeing the company not just support that but innovate to try and correct those problems.
Yeah.
The example that gets thrown around is, you buy the first year model of a car, and your alternator goes bad. Well, the engineer didn't plan for the alternator to go bad so quickly, so they didn't make it super easy to remove. So that first year model of that car, to replace alternator, step 1, remove engine, and then year model 2 and so on, it was much easier to remove. It had a space for you to get a wrench or a drill to remove it. And that's where I see Mark 7 is, yes, mistakes get made in engineering and production, but what really tells about a company is how they react to that, how they support that product, immediately after and in the future. And I see that at Mark 7, I've probably have 250,000 cycles on my press, between loading ammo and processing brass and what have you. It's my workhorse. The number one reason why I bought one in the first place, before I had a relationship and before I knew really what the product was, is I have a very minor shoulder injury, but I was tired of pulling a handle. The reason why Mark 7 exists can be summed up in a very simple question, at least for the sports shooter. How much is your time worth?
Yeah.
Everyone's time has a value to it. And, whether you're a lawyer or you're, in retail, in sales or what have you, your time has a value.
Yep.
So for me, it's, hey, I need 1,000 rounds to be able to train this week. I go to the garage for an hour and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go back inside and I sit down and play video games or hang out with the wife or dogs or whatever. That's what I decided that I don't want to pull a handle anymore. It hurts and my time is worth something. Therefore, I made that choice.
Yep. It's awesome. It's the same thing on any cycle of technology. That's what I studied in college. But think about Apple. And if you're going to be on the early adopters, you just expect that there's going to be changes and updates. And then you get the laggers at the very end that finally buy into it. And by then it's they're on the next thing.
Well, yeah. We have the Titan series, which doesn't really apply to the sport or, to that range. Is more industrial or commercial operation. Mm-hmm. But the Titan will be able to load up to 338 lapua mag, which if you've never seen one of those in person, it's a step down from a 50 BMG, but it's a big step up from 308 or 06. So that's the next step for us. That doesn't really apply to what we're talking about today, but it is a big sign that innovation is continuing.
Right.
We just launched the Primer Express and Apex 10. Primer Express is the first consumer grade automatic primer, not collator, excuse me, primer feeder, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Instead of being a vibratory bowl, it's a oscillating side to side shaker table, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's mounted to your press.
So cool.
No more primer tubes. That is innovation. And I don't. Let me put it, in pure terms. I don't hate Dylan. Nobody at Mark 7 hates Dylan. We get some parts from them. They get some, and we have a relationship. Mm-hmm. There is no hatred or animosity between Dylan and Mark 7. None.
Yeah.
Okay. There is competition. There is, the desire to outsell the other or to outproduce or out innovate. But that's one of the reasons I went Mark 7 in the first place, is Dylan hadn't innovated in 20 years.
Sure.
So, at the end of the day, I'm a consumer, on my personal basis, I'm a consumer making ammo for competition. And that's what I want. Cool stuff. I want to see something cool. And 10 stations, that's great. And that's what drew me to it in the first place.
That's
but
awesome.
No, there's some people think we hate Dylan or, we want to see them burn or something. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back, transitioning out of the military, like you said, you had no plans to go into the firearms industry, whatsoever. It just happens to.
That's yes and no. When I first exited, I had just started. I'd only been competing for about a year and a half, and I just wanted the job. Getting out, I wanted something solid, something stable that I could plan around, and that would, match or be around the same income I was generating when I was in. I exited the military as a staff sergeant, E6. My wife and I were used to that income level and to that standard of living. So that was a struggle. That was in 16. And I started looking in January, I think. I started applying, and I must have had my expectations a little bit too high, because the amount of callbacks wasn't there. I was artillery. How do you transfer that? It's like, hey, I know how to do, base level algebra and get around from here to, up to 18 miles away, but not much else.
Military is not being able to plan your transition and not being able to have, I guess, applicable skills, or that people recognize those skills either and see what they could be of value in a different sense.
So on paper, a veteran, especially a non-commissioned officer, should be great. They have leadership skills, they have planning skills, they're going to be on time, so on and so forth.
Yep.
But at the same time, the military creates a mentality, creates an attitude of that's a little harsh compared to civilian life, and that's why, my first real job out of the military being with a vet was very helpful, because it helped, me transition. That's a great word, transition. You want it to be a nice gradual, transition, not a jolt.
Yeah.
And dealing with customers, and I have to put it that way because you're always dealing with them. Customers see it as, oh, you're helping me, but some customers have the mentality of, I've been wronged. What are you going to do to help me? What are you going to do to make this right?
Yeah.
And in the military, the mentality you get driven into is get the mission done. It's a little more, I don't want to say gruff, but it's a harder line. This is what needs to happen, make it happen. There's not much room for wishy-washiness. And compared to civilian life, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back now, do you feel like you're just living the dream life, like where you are now? Did you ever plan that or imagine that this would be your job?
It was about a year after I got out that I saw the gun industry as being where I wanted to be. But I want to take this time to warn anybody who thinks they want to follow that path, is the important part of the phrase gun industry is not gun, it's industry. Okay. My coworkers, I think there's just myself and Tom who regularly go out and shoot. The gun industry is more about industry than it is about guns.
Yeah.
The person who's assembling or machining, it's a machinist job to them. It's an assembly job for them. It's a sales job for them, what have you. It's not a gun job for them. So while you will find more satisfaction than doing the same thing in a non-gun industry job, it's going to be the same thing. And take comfort in that, because it's not like you're walking into a war zone. You're not coming into an industry that is so different. But also, take into account the fact that this is still a industry in America that is either manufacturing or marketing. So it's simultaneously different and the same.
Yeah.
But no, the main reason why I went into the gun industry in the first place, Shooters Connection and then Mark 7, is because I felt more comfortable.
Yeah.
I didn't need, I'd already done all the research. I was a gun nut since I was 10 years old. And I was able to take comfort when someone brought something up and explained something. I didn't need to pull out a book or reference material to have a basic understanding what they're talking about, whether it's a machine gun, or a pistol or a shotgun, anywhere in between. You have that background information.
Yeah. Which you need. A lot of people need. It's still really, like you said, people look on the outside, right? And I'm sure you get this all the time, like, oh, you're in the industry. This is so cool. You work in the industry. Like, your life must be awesome. We do cool things, but it's not an overnight success. And it is still a lot of work. And I am never off work.
I would phrase it slightly differently, is that you do cool stuff every once in a while.
This is true. At SHOT Show, and
no, SHOT Show can go to hell.
Are you going this year?
Yeah, I'll probably be forced to go next year. I went to SHOT Show as the person that I hate now, back in 17, and but then I went as part of my job in 19 and 20, and the difference between who I was in 17 and who I was 19 and 20. 19 and 20, I was there to do a job. I was there to purchase, to sign purchasing agreements and do research. I was not there to walk around trying to get sponsorships or to see cool stuff. I was there to work. So the people like who I was in 17 pissed me off. Like, get out the way, get your milk crate out of the way. Stop blocking the aisle.
Yeah.
Stop walking up and trying to get free samples of stuff you're never going to buy from.
Right.
Okay. And let me, purchase $50,000 worth of product, please. And then, but I'm going to be transitioning so I was there as an individual. I was there as a purchaser with Mark 7. And now in 2022, I'll most likely be there as, a booth, operator, operating a booth and answering questions. So I will have seen, the three main types of attendees. But no,
What about the media? Not the people that take the video.
Oh, sorry. That's the fourth. I never want to be the fourth type, you know.
I won't tell you what credentials I applied for SHOT Show. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Going back to, I want to know about your childhood. You were a gun nut by 10. So who did all of that? Like, where did you learn all the firearm stuff?
My parents were LA sheriffs in the 80s. And I grew up in Central Washington. We had a cabin in Montana, Missoula area. And we go there during the summers and some winters. And around 8, 9 years old, my dad started teaching me, gun safety, and taught me with a real firearm. And then I asked if I could walk around the woods with one of them. And he said, not until you've walked around with this BB gun for a while.
Yep. And
made some mistakes, and then eventually earned the privilege to walk around with a Marlin tube-fed 22 semi-auto with a rimfire scope on it, and it was great. It taught me gun safety. And then it was an SKS in 7.62 by 39. Chopped down a tree with that thing.
Wow, that's cool.
And it didn't really catch up with this sport until I was around 15 years old. I was dating my wife, and for those who don't know, I've been married 12 years with the same woman for 17 total years. We met at church camp back in 2004, and her dad. If you ever heard of the boomer shoot, ever heard of it?
No, the boomer shoot, like revolver shoot.
Yeah. No. It's a event in Central Idaho where you go out and shoot at high explosives at between 300 and 700 yards. That event is ran by my father-in-law.
What? Okay, and do you have to be a boomer?
No. The term boomer shoot is because boom, you shoot boomers.
I was thinking a different generation. Oh my God.
No. Baby boomers are not holding the targets. No.
Okay, so that's cool. If he runs this event every year, still goes on?
I think there was, I can't remember if it was canceled last year or not because of COVID.
Right.
But it still goes on. He has the proper license. It's not tannerite. It's a little more powerful than that, a little more stable. And not as much work involved, but he has the bunker, he has the ATF, permitting and all that. That's not my realm, but that's my father-in-law. The joke is I married into the industry, but he took me to my first USPSA match in outside of Moscow, Idaho, back in 15. And I thought, I played Halo, I did all this. I can shoot. I learned how to shoot. I'll be fine. It was a very humbling experience, but it gave me that little extra push to be a gun nut, to be really. And I've always been interested, watching the History Channel as a kid with my dad. Like it or not, and I know most of your audience is gonna like it, but firearms have had a very, very high impact on history over the past 500 years. Yeah. If you look back, firearms development has given an advantage to country A or country B, or throughout the last 5 centuries. Warfare has been affected, countries have been formed, countries have fallen based on weapons development and employment. So the mechanical background I've loved, the historical background I've loved, the metallurgy, everything. It's interested in me for years.
That's so cool. So that's how you found the world of competitive shooting.
Yeah. Between the father-in-law and watching History Channel by dad is the short answer.
That's really cool. Oh my gosh. And the History Channel, have you watched the Machines That Built America Now, the new segment that they have?
I haven't had cable since 2008. So
I don't have cable either. I have internet, which has the History Channel app thingy. I don't know.
Oh no. I haven't looked that far. No.
Okay. Anyways, I digress. Okay. That's what I want to talk about with the shooting stuff. So like you said, a very humbling experience for the first experience. Even in 3-gun, when I bring new shooters to a major match, I'm like, don't expect this to go as you think it'll go. Or for all classifier matches, I went to one and people you're not going to overclassify. If anything, you're going to underclassify, because it's a horrible experience. It really is.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get through that? Probably the first beginnings, right? And then start enjoying shooting. You weren't discouraged from it. You just wanted to keep going.
The easy answer is I didn't actually compete. I was there to prove that I could be safe and effective with my carry gun. I didn't care. yeah, they slapped some more mags on my belt, but I'm still drawing. I was carrying a single stack 45 with 10 round mags, or I had 10 round mags for the sport, but my goal was to know that if I had to use my carry gun, I could hit the target and not be, not be dumb, not be, hit someone who didn't deserve to be shot. So, I was 21, just got back from Iraq the second time, and I just shot once a month. And I was a much more eclectic gun collector at the time. I had a pretty wide variety, but that was the point. I didn't even look at scores. Hey, did I place above the bottom third? Cool, rock and roll. And then I went to Alaska and deployed, came back, and I got really into it. I started reloading, because I wanted to shoot more often. I shot twice a month, one USPSA, one IDPA per month, and got to know the people there. And I think I was classified a C. I think initial classification was C class, and it took me a year and a half to get out of there.
Yeah.
But that was in 13. But funny story, in Alaska, I still talk to and shoot with people I shot with back then. Yeah, Ken Rose. I don't know if you know the name.
Yeah.
He is the NCOIC at the on the instructor side of the AMU. Yeah. I'd take your shirt off your back for that man.
He's okay. Awesome.
Yeah, he is an amazing person, soldier, and man.
Like so quiet, yes. You wouldn't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been shooting matches with him for a while too, around like.
Yeah, I bet he took your candy a few times.
Good.
He was who helped me get my start. A little bit of advice and all of it, but he helped me get into actually competing in the sport. At major events too. But my first Florida Open in 15 was with him. We carpooled and all that. But no, the getting into it, the equipment didn't matter as much initially, because I just wanted competence. I in the Army, I did the M9 qualification, late, and they're like, wow, man, you did great. It's like, yeah, this is the easiest test in the world. What the hell's wrong with you guys? And like, where'd you learn to shoot? I'm like, I'm self-taught. I just, and that brings up, we can go into this a little more later, but about built-in aptitude. Yeah, hand-eye coordination plays a big part in our sport, but I was kind of obsessed. It was my wife could wish I would stop talking about it, but what comes down to is, at that time in my life, shooting was one of the foundations of keeping me sane.
Yeah.
Especially being in Alaska, I can't just drive and visit family. I can't, you enjoy the outdoors. I hope so. Right. Cause you're going to get a lot of it.
A lot.
And, but no, shooting kept me grounded. It kept me, it's an attainable goal. I was lifting a lot of weights at the time. So that was my personal, just me thing. I'm always dating my wife. So it was, that was my, with my wife thing. And competition shooting was my proving something to the people around me. That was the social aspect of my life besides the Army. And it worked out. It really did.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's really my mental health is going to a match and shooting with people. And like you said, it
is a great way of putting it.
It is. And like, I turn my phone on airplane mode now. I'm getting very conscientious. That's my time. I paid to be there. Why am I worrying about outside stuff that I can't do anything about while I'm there? Like, I need to enjoy it. Going back to something you said too, like not caring, or caring but not caring, when you get started about where you are, you're just having fun, you're shooting. I think what changed, I guess, when you start getting a little bit more serious is that you're walking around checking all your targets. You want overlays calls. You want to know your time. Like, you're actually, that's when you care. I tell people, if you're not even running with the targets, you're not even serious about it yet, right? You're not even, you need to go, look.
And there's a few aspects to what you just said, for those who don't know, I'm CRO qualified. I've worked major matches over the years. I've helped I helped start up a club at Fort Campbell. I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm super awesome. It's like, I'm saying I've paid my dues.
Right.
I've been around it. And when it comes to walking, like what you just said, walking and checking your targets, there are usually two different, maybe three different minds of it. One is like, dude, just relax. Like, your score is your score.
Mhm.
And then there's the realization that people are human
Mhm.
and they make incorrect calls sometimes.
Yeah.
And then there's the third, where the opinion is if you ask for an overlay, you're a dickhead.
Absolutely not.
Or
I
but
get
there's a
that.
line. There's a line. And it took me a long time to realize this line. I was a dickhead. I mean, when it came to like saying, oh no, that's a double. At the same time, I've shot so much, I have had legitimate doubles.
100%.
You know, like they do happen.
Mhm.
And the proper answer to that is, can I have the RO, overlay, please? Can the CRO look at it? Can you pull it for the range master? And then that's it.
Yep.
You don't say anything else.
Yep.
Because that new shooter on your squad or that experienced shooter is looking at you like, yeah, man, yeah, right. Just accept the mic and rock and roll.
Yeah.
But I still have the cutout A zone above my reloading bench at my house of the most perfect double I've ever shot. And it was at 2 yards, which made it, more acceptable,
right.
3 yards or whatever. But it took the range master a good minute to be like, oh no, there actually is 2 there.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have asked for the range master to look at it if I hadn't watched the video, which you can't use in arbitration, for,
right. Yeah.
For better or for worse, you can't use it. And I didn't see my arms move. I didn't see the gun move, and it was at 2 freaking yards.
Right.
So, like I said, there's 2 aspects. There's two opinions. One is you want the, you, the shooter, want your score. You want it to be better. Obviously, you don't hate yourself. You want to do well. And then there's the other aspect of like, oh, sure, it's a double.
Absolutely. So frustrating. Yeah. I've had one, and I've had somebody else where I've had to ask them to ask their RO in a major match. I'm like, this is your rights as a shooter. And it was a double.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, no matter what you do, as long as it's within the rules, be respectful.
Yeah.
Understand that and this isn't aimed at you, this is aimed at everybody. The second you start yelling or being a dick to your RO, you lose any of that respect. You lose the ability to say that you're in the right. But hell, I was getting filmed by Shooting USA single stack nationals last year, and like, if you hadn't said it was a mic, if you just pulled me away and said, hey man, you have a mic down there, I would have said bullshit.
Right. Because
I was shooting minor at the time, so it was a wide open target at like 15 yards, and I'm like, alpha, pulling the trigger. And at bare minimum, Alpha Charlie. If you had said Alpha Charlie, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, shit happens. But they walk in and say Alpha Mike. I'm like, no. I was like, look at it again. And Shooting USA. So what's going on right now? And I'm trying to think like, they say it's a mic and I say it's not. Like, how do you politely say that?
Awkward. Yeah.
And then I get the call, the call is Alpha, to Alpha at the end of it. And they come up to me again. It's like, so what happened? It's like, in my head, I'm going, they said it was a mic. I called bullshit and I won. Like, what do you want me to say here? But I'll say 2 things. One, doubles do happen. And if you're an RO or CRO, you need to be aware of what to look for to make sure that you give the shooter their score. And number 2 is, if you think you have 3 doubles in a match, you're wrong. And have a good attitude. Be an adult, be respectful.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize that. And I'm kind of upset it took me so long to internalize that.
Well, it's any sport you think about, again, football, basketball, baseball, there are going to be BS calls and you're just gonna have to live with that and own it and move on. We're not going to get 100% across the board, but that's when I can tell the difference between people. As I walk around, even I shoot little PCC now and walk around, like I want to see every target, want to make sure, but the difference, and this, between an Alpha and a Charlie, especially with minor power factor, is huge. And like Charlie or Alpha and Mike, that's massive. That can, you see it at the top with you, at least, not with me, but that can be the game changer win for the match. So
100%. I had I'll tell you a little story here. Area 8 back in 17, I won the match by a pretty small margin. I want to say 25 points, 20 points over 14 stages. That's pretty small.
Yeah.
And I had a screw up. I totally forgot a target. And the score should have been 2 mic, 1 FTSA. And the score was, and basically the RO couldn't be sure that I actually didn't shoot at it. And I wasn't, I was backloading mags or whatever. He didn't give me the FTSA. He just gave me 2 mic. And I kind of felt bad when I realized that he didn't give me the FTSA. But then at the end of the day, I won the match, and I look at the scores, and I used the competitor app, and I put in an FTSA on that stage, and I still would have won. I felt a little bit better about it.
Right.
But, and that's a really hard discussion to have, like, and RO gives you a better score than you earned. The question comes up of, I'd struggle to say it's about integrity. It's their job to call your score.
It is,
and so if they give you a better score than you earned, the right answer morally is to stand up and say, no, that's not an alpha, that's a delta, or that's not an alpha, that's a Charlie, or what have you. But it's hard. It really is, because in that moment, and you may or may not have one of your friends looking at you like, are you going to say something, buddy? Like, and it's one of the hard, this sport is hard in the shooting aspect, but I think that's harder.
Oh, 100%. Have you seen that? Did you see the Go Fast, Don't Suck meme that had the approve, and it was
yeah.
That's what we're talking about. That was this week. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and Bill Duda's he's a friend of mine. He's a great guy. I got my jerseys from him, actually. He was
Me too. I love the tags.
Yes, the tags were a pleasant surprise.
Mine was, he looked like a new safety rule or whatever, and then like something like your mom's like disappointed. It was great.
Yeah.
And
mine was like your wife is right, I think, or something like that.
I love it. I shot with him at nationals. He's fun. Okay, going back to, you started out shooting in, you said C class, and you're shooting single stack, right?
L10 actually at the time.
Yeah, that's why I shot at nationals though.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the only gun I had it for. But when did you change like divisions and start shooting in other things? And you said it took you about a year or so moving up. Like, how fast and where did you go classification wise?
So to give you the short and sweet, started shooting ish in 13. Or sorry, I joined USPSA in 13 in Alaska, shooting limited, I think, and shot limited all 13 and 14. There were some major matches in Alaska. Did well in the first one. It was an outlaw steel match, and then 2 months later was the Alaska sectional level 1, but it was the Alaska state match, and that was actually my first time meeting JJ Ricazza, and I'll never forget what he told me. He watched me shoot, and I had no idea who the hell he was. I think I remember he was on Top Shot, I think, whatever. And I knew he was the pro that being flown up there for a class and stuff. And he looks at me and goes like, man, are you trying to turn that double stack into a single stack? Because I was gripping the living hell out of it. And at the time, I was really into powerlifting. I mean, I was benching 385. I was deadlifting over 400. I was in the best shape of my life, in that regard. So when I applied grip pressure to something, you could see it. You could see, my arms, acting on it. And I'll never forget. And he remembered me a year later, and which kind of was like, yeah, now I'm shooting with him. Like, JJ is my hero, by the way. Like, I am not on the same level as JJ.
Yeah.
No one is on the same level as JJ.
Yeah.
He is an amazing human being and shooter. But shot limited 13 and 14, moved to Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky in mid 14. And I was still C class. And my goal was like, man, I just want to make B. I just want to get out of there. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, who he was on the Olympic rifle team when he was 18 years old.
What? When
he was 19, he was on the Paralympic rifle team. Rock climbing accident, paralyzed from the waist down. And he invited me to his home, and he gave me some good pointers. We were having some beers, and he's like, hey man, you have potential. You just need to do X, Y, and Z, and like focus on, it's like, you're better than you think you are. You need to fix these things, and you need to get out of your own head. And I don't know what it was. I took a break, and then 2 months later, boom, I made B class. Nice. And then I saw my friend Ken Rose signed up Florida Open, and I was like, hey, I want to go shoot a big event, an actual big event. Took second B class, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. This is fun. Like, honey, I want to do this as much as I can. And like, this is something to drive me, to get me motivated. Yeah. And I did. And Area 6, I took first B, I think, and then it was off the races. But essentially, to give you the rundown, was at 15, I shot limited all year, made master right before nationals, or no, it was right after nationals, won first A class. I had traded into an open gun right before nationals. I'm saying, hey, screw it, I'll shoot open after limited. I shot a better percentage of the winner and better placement in open than I did in limited after I had literally had 100 rounds through that gun, no training with open.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm an open shooter now. And then 16, it was off the races. I won my first level 2 match in April or May at the Cowtown Classic. And 17 won area 4 and area 8. And haven't won an area match since then, but it's been a lot of close calls and I'm, competing at the top.
Yeah.
But it's basically what it comes down to is I went through I broke through a mental break. It wasn't that I wasn't training enough. It wasn't that I wasn't dry firing. It was me holding me back. And we talked about, aptitude a little bit ago. There is an element of aptitude of natural, call it natural talent if you want.
Yeah.
I am under no illusions that, my training regimen was what made the difference or, whatever. No, like there is some God-given thing going on with your hand-eye coordination, your ability to manipulate something in your hands. At the same time, I think people cut themselves short when they think that, oh, I'm dry firing, nothing's happening. And I think a lot of it is mental. I really do.
The mental game. That's what this is.
My favorite saying is, and this, people ask, friends of mine, hey man, like, do you have any tips for XYZ and shooting? And I'm like, the best advice I can give you, and it takes, you're not going to become an overnight success. Me telling you this, you have to internalize it, is there is no stage before this. There is no stage after this. There is only this stage.
Yep.
There is only this moment. There is only this target, this trigger press, like being able to internalize that. And eventually you make it a subconscious effort.
Yeah.
I'm not going to teach you how to get to that point. However, once you internalize, that was the breaking point for me, was internalizing that phrase, trying to put in the, deal with it later category in your head of what happened before this or what's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
Because like I said, this sport for me there is nothing else in my life between beep and range is clear. So I can't tell you why it was overnight, came out of nowhere, all that, except for the mental aspect.
That's really cool. And Travis Tomasi taught me that 2 weekends ago, taking his class. It's subconscious is most of where things are at. You got to train your brain and mental game.
Well, I forget what the chart is, but like there's unconscious incompetence, then there's unconscious competence, and there's conscious incompetence, and then there's subconscious competence. Like you go through the layers, like the person who doesn't know what they don't know compared to the person who can draw and shoot and do everything without thinking about it.
Right. That's where you need to be. That's where the beep goes, and you need to be able to have those subconscious actions, or else you just go back to whatever you had.
Yeah.
But so okay, I want to get your advice for this, like new shooters. How important is it for them to come out, run what they've got, shoot their carry gun? They might not have the fanciest stuff, but how important is that for them to just go out and get their first match under their belt?
It's extremely important. And it's also very hard. Yeah. It's very hard for someone who has, Glock 19 or, insert, appropriate carry gun here, and go out to a USPSA match with people shooting, against, an open gun and being like, oh, I need one of those, no. At the end of the day, your first match is aimed at finding out if this is something you want to spend time, money, energy, blood, sweat, and tears on. So, forget the investment, go out, see what it's like. And that's why I really dislike people who try to, hammer, brand new shooters. So safety is a totally different thing, don't take it as a safety aspect, but like, oh man, you need to shoot this ammo, or you need to do whatever, you need to buy this gun. It's like, no, man, like this guy, do you know how expensive this sport is? Like, it's bullshit. This sport is it costs a lot of money to do this crap.
Yeah.
So someone who's coming out and you tell them 200 rounds for a local match, and you're like, holy crap, that's a lot of ammo.
Yeah, we're like,
especially in right now.
Yeah.
So no, it is extremely important. Run what you have. I need to do it. If I was back in Kentucky, I'd be doing it, in the winter. But running, I think USPSA shooters, all of us should at least once a year run a match with your carry gear.
Oh yeah, it's good practice. It's fun, and now we can legally in USPSA, but not in IDPA. Draw from.
Yeah. Oh no, it's you be an open. You can draw from appendix and open. You could always draw from appendix and open.
Yeah.
I carry a Glock 19 in appendix carry.
Yeah.
Add some mag pouches to your belt and go. Yeah. There's a guy in Kentucky, John Couris, Couris. It's all he shoots is a Glock 19 from either appendix or strong side. But man, that guy smokes people. Like he was shooting limited because he had to, for his carry method. Right. Anyway, at the end of the day, like if you carry, like this sport is supplementary to that. You may shoot a different gun, but having confidence, like I said, where I started, I just wanted confidence in my carry gun setup and my ability is how I got started in this. And there's down here in Florida, there's every holiday weekend, so 4th of July, Labor Day, etc. There's a concealed carry match, and cool. It's 10 stages, 5 rounds, and you're strongly encouraged to run your carry rig. So I do just that. I wear street clothes, and I just have my carry gun and appendix. And I won the last one, took third. The one before that had some misfires with the ammo I was using. Never shoot somebody else's ammo is all I'll say about that. If you win, it's like $100 payout, cool. But there's payout, 10, 15 or $20, throughout the list. But it's all 5-round stages, and it's got movement. But you're drawing from concealment under pressure 10 times. Yep. And it was a great validation that my stuff worked, that I did know how to draw in my street clothes, and that I could hit something with my carry gun, even though I shoot and open.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like going back to, if you come out and you're buying all this fancy gun, you might come out and carry optics and absolutely hate that gun and hate that division, yep. Right? Borrow if you can, or try shooting other people's guns before you invest all of that. I mean, it took me years to go to 2011, but I would never have invested $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever at the start, right? That's dumb. Mm-hmm. Unless you have the money, have fun with that.
No. And that's money is not going to buy you placement. Okay. It may get you more liability. It may get you, I won 2 area matches with a CK arms gun. Yeah. I did pretty well with limited shooting a, used Freedom Gunworks limited gun, 6-inch 40 limited gun. I used a borrowed gun for Care Optics Nationals. I used a Rock Island single stack and took top 10. So cool. The Travis Tomasi, did extremely well with the Remington. Yeah. These Nils Jonasson shoots a Koenig.
I love the Koenig, bro. I love mine.
Jessica and Nils are great people. I'm glad to know them. Yeah. I mean that they're good people.
Oh, they're awesome. I got to squad with him at 6, and he was so chill. And he even just had the one mic was still at the very, very, very top. I'm like, how do you do that?
Yep. In open, I would say the only division where you need to care at least at a base level about equipment is open. Yeah. In open, like you need to have. You don't need top of the line stuff. Brian Jones shooting a Caspian that was built in the 90s. Mm-hmm. I need this comp and all this. Like, yeah, you need a good comp. Do you need the absolute best comp? No. Do you need ammo that works? Yeah. Do you need the absolute best? You need to load 3M38 because it's the absolute best powder. No. I was shooting in 17. I was shooting a CK gun in 9 major with auto comp. Okay. Oh, wow. And today, if you ask me about my opinion about auto comp, I'll tell you is the worst 9 major powder you can buy. It's relatively clean. It meters well. It's consistent, but everything else is bad. In my opinion. Mm-hmm. And still did fine with it because it comes down to experience and comes down to training. Like Nils with a CK arms gun, or not CK, sorry, Koenig. Yeah. it comes down to you at a base level, your skill, your competence, and your comfort with that firearm.
Yeah.
At the same time, is Nils going to win if he picks up a freaking, Glock 26? Probably not going to do as well.
That would suck.
So is it appropriate? Is it reliable? Are you comfortable with it? Those are three criteria.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So for you, what was the tipping point for you to actually like set your sights on taking this seriously, going to win matches, and all of that?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Probably in probably early 16, around there, when I picked up open, full time, and saw how well I was doing relative to people who put a lot of effort into it. Open compared to any other division, open is faster. You have all the benefits. You have Magwell, you have red dot, you have comp, you have major scoring. The main difference between open and any other division is that every advantage you have, everybody else in your division has that advantage as well. Mm-hmm. So I get asked, I shot a local match yesterday, and I was shaking my head at the end of a stage, and like, man, what's wrong? You did great. And it's like, I biffed the load a little bit. I was erratic here and there. It's like, dude, that was fast. I'm like, yeah. However, next weekend when I'm at Area 8, that's not going to be acceptable.
Right.
It's not about whether or not I win today. It's about what is this representing? Because I'll give a great example. Comparing, we'll say limited to, or not limited, we'll say single stack to open, which is a huge difference, I know. But if you biff a reload in single stack, okay, that sucks, but it's not the end of the world.
Right.
You biff a load and it costs you a second in open. We'll say it costs you a second. We'll say your penalty is one full second in single stack versus open. And single stack, that stage may be a 15-second stage. Mm-hmm. And open, that's a 12-second stage.
Yeah.
Or 11-second stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so your deficit is much greater. If you make a mistake in open, against heat of any type, and around you, like, it costs you more. And that's part of the reason why I love it is it's Formula One drag racing.
Yeah, it is.
Deltas may not cost you as much as shooting production, but you have to flow. You have to be consistent. You have to, not be erratic. You have to be predictable. Your gun has to work.
Yeah.
All these things matter more.
Yeah.
The margin of error is so much smaller. And that's part of the reason why I love it.
That's cool. So when you were setting up like a training regimen, to go in area matches and start getting those titles in 17, what did that look like? What did you do?
So people ask me like, hey man, how much do you dry fire? It's like, I didn't dry fire that much. I just shot as much as possible. At least once a week, I was live firing at an indoor range. Every weekend I was shooting a match or I was training. The main thing comes down to identifying what you suck at the most and working on that particular aspect. So a big problem I had in 16 and 17 was if I shot an array of 4 targets, 8 shots. If I had a mic, I promise you it was going to be on the last target.
Because you're ready to move?
Yeah, because I'm pulling off that target. So I'm paying attention 1, 2, and 3. And then on the 4th, it's bang, alpha or whatever. And I'm pulling off as I'm pulling the trigger, and it's going into the dirt.
Yeah.
And you see that with some people, but the way I worked that out was shooting those arrays a lot, shooting pairs, shooting a pair of targets, and staying solid and watching the dot lift or the sight lift on that second shot before I snap my eyes. Yeah. And that can lead to its own problems of over confirming. But if you're having this problem, you don't just say, hey, you don't just accept it. You try to identify and isolate and correct that issue before you move on.
Yeah. It's not fun, but you need to work on what you suck at.
Yep, exactly.
It's awful. And obviously the results speak for themselves. You went all the way up to GM now. So what are you working towards, I guess, the next title? Like, what do you really want to achieve?
So so talking back about my wrist surgery again here, a problem I noticed last year before the second surgery, and then also this year is grip inconsistency. So the easiest way to put it is, especially in open, you can see a lot about your hits. If you look at a target, you can glean a lot from that target. So if you have a nice tight group, but it's in the Charlie, okay, that tells me that you either over-indexed or under-indexed. Your index was wrong, essentially.
Yeah.
Your index on that target, whether it was coming into that target by itself, or that was the last target in an array, your index, you transitioned incorrectly. You did not get a good A zone index on that target. And that's something I shot close to 500 rounds today, this morning, training up for area 8 and trying to identify that and work on that in particular. So you can glean that. So a problem I've had is grip inconsistency. So what the symptom you'll notice if your grip is inconsistent is you'll see wide horizontal spacing. Okay, you'll in open, and we're talking about open primarily here, but it's also applicable to other divisions, but not quite as much. So if I see two Charlie and they're opposite left and right side, that is either I was transitioning across that target as I fired both shots, or my grip was so inconsistent that I fired one and then my grip wasn't solid enough for the recoil and I fired another on the opposite side of the target. I had a big problem with this last year. I'd have one center hit and then one in off the Charlie, both parallel to each other horizontally, but not vertically aligned. They weren't close to each other on the vertical plane. And so working on that, and essentially what I came up with was, dude, I just need to crank down on my left hand. Because what I realized is post first surgery and also post my second surgery is I was taking note of my right hand pain and discomfort. And I was trying to crank down with my right hand so hard, just dig through the pain, crank down. But I wasn't doing the same thing with my left hand. And some people will tell you in open, you need to crank down with your left, but kind of leave your right hand a little bit relaxed so you can be able to pull the trigger faster. If you tighten up your right hand a whole lot, you're going to lose the ability to pull fast splits. I mean, is it that important? Not really, but it does apply. So I was overcorrecting with my right and undercorrecting with my left. And what I noticed that was I was shooting left all the damn time. I was shooting left. And you shoot enough in the black on hardcover targets and it hurts you. It cost me a match or two last year. So that's been to answer what I'm working towards. It's working towards being consistent with my grip pressure and overcoming the injury and recovery to the point where I'm shooting good points. And so essentially what I've been doing the last 2 months or so is alpha hunting is what I call it.
Okay.
Especially at locals, is I'm trying to shoot as many alphas as possible, but I'm not trying to over confirm, trying to find that good balance.
Yeah.
So I won Ohio State this year, Kentucky State, and the Doc Welton Memorial match. And I think I had 95% points at Ohio, 94% at Kentucky, and either 93 or 94% at Doc Welt, partly because I was alpha hunting. I was putting so much emphasis on that equal or consistent, I should say, grip pressure to where, if I pull, even if I'm pulling, I'm not pulling 12 splits here. I'm pulling, 15, 17s, but they're too alpha. They're more than. And I'm not just that, but I'm able to call when it's not an alpha hit.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I'm working on that grip consistency.
I like it. I think can you speak to maybe like the progression of shooters? I feel like I could be wrong in this assessment, but like they start out pretty much with, you see a lot of manager recoil problems, right? They're like the planes, that's that you're talking about. And as you get better, you are trying to get the splits. Sometimes I guess people focus on, and then people are really looking at like what you're looking at, alpha hunting, or really transitioning and making sure not overrun or underrun and all of these things. So I feel like the difference is also being able to call your hits, like knowing when your sights lift that you were on target. And all of that. Can you speak to like the progression of maybe a shooter?
So step one is being safe, obviously. Yeah. But the saying that took me a long time to really realize how important it was, and I can't remember where this is from. Someone can probably tell you later on, as this goes live, where it's from, but you need to see faster.
Yes.
It took me a long time to realize, like, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You can only see so what. And what it really comes down to is being able to process the information subconsciously more quickly. What did you see in that split second from pulling one shot to pulling the second shot, and regarding side alignment and dot? And when a great example is carry optics versus open. I am much more cognizant of where that dot is when the shot breaks in carry optics than I am in open. Yeah. Yes, I want alphas in open, but if I throw an alpha Charlie, as long as that's not every target, it's alpha Charlie, like who cares?
Right.
Right. So you need to see faster comes down to processing speed. And it's not about processing speed so much as your brain, your eyes have seen this scenario so many times, you know what the result is going to be.
Yep.
So it's not even hand-eye coordination. It's getting used to, this problem set or this scenario in front of your face. I saw this, I've seen this X many times. I know within a reasonable certainty what the result is.
Right. A new shooter's not going to be able to. They're going to be like, I don't know. Like, what did you do? I don't know. It's like, okay, well, we can't even self-assess that we don't know.
Because they didn't process what was happening. Mm-hmm. And that's why I am a firm believer in that red dots are a wonderful training tool.
Yeah.
And an assessment tool, because they're able to see, are they dipping the muzzle? They're able to watch the bouncing little red dot and see what it does. And, as they're pulling the trigger. And that on a side note, that's why it's kind of hard for open shooters to admit they have a mic or whatever, because like, no, the dot was somewhere in the brown, but did you process, as you're pulling the trigger, as you pulled off a target?
Yeah.
Yep. Everything happens so much quicker. You have to be able to process it more quickly. But no, the new shooter, it's, I some people may think this is wrong, but I think carry optics is the best thing that's happened to our sport in a long time.
The dot helps. It changes a lot of things. It forces the eyes open. I think PCC is the same way for me. It's like I'm processing faster, seeing it and moving, and it makes me faster now.
No, forget the training aspect. It keeps people around.
It does.
You have a new shooter who gets told, hey, you have a Glock, shoot production.
Did you see the registration for that for nationals? It's like 80% carry optics and like 20% PCC.
Yeah. It's well, you look at the benefits of it: factory ammo, factory guns,
minor, level playing field, no major minor differences.
Yep,
it's a lot.
No, carry optics. I'm shooting carry optics nationals, but it's more of a prep for open than it is anything else. I mean, if I take top 10 in carry optics, I'll be a pig in mud. And there's so much heat in carry optics these days compared to 2 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it. The GM who says I won when they were the only GM there, in their heart, they're like, well, that's kind of a hollow victory. I tell my peers this, and my peers feel the same way. I want to win when we both have a good day.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Out of all the matches that you've shot, what has been like maybe the most meaningful win, or the one that like you said, it's not a cop out because somebody was sick or didn't show or whatever. Can you remember that favorite like match win?
It's probably Area 4, because it was so those who don't know, Cody Baker and I we're friends. We're in the same area. So any given local major, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, that region, I will expect to shoot with Cody Baker, maybe Andrew Hyder, and one or two other, depending on who shows up. But Cody and I shoot together a lot, and he's taking a break this year, from what I understand, component shortage and focusing on work. But pretty sure he'll be back. But Area 4 in 17, he and I were squatted together, and he made a few errors, so did I. But going in the last two stages, we keep track of points.
Oh yeah.
It's not a I'm ahead of you, man. No, it's a both of us pulling out the calculator. Okay, knowing where we stand, and which is one of the few places where keeping track of your hit factor matters. Yeah. Because if you're anywhere but expecting to win, not expecting to win, but in the running to win, like you kind of need to know where you're at the last 2, maybe 3 stages, because you need to know if you should push it. If I'm behind by 5 points, that's very different than I'm behind by 50.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm behind by 50, it's shoot solid, hope he screws up. Or, if I'm behind by 5, it's like, crap, I kind of need to go for that, try and shoot that swinger on its first presentation, as opposed to, first and second. It changes my decision. If I do nothing, I lose.
Yeah. Is
what it comes down to. Yeah. But keeping track, and I wasn't a perfect lead, going into the 3 stages away, but I remember it now. It was a standard stage: turn, draw, shoot whatever rounds, reload, shoot whatever rounds, strong hand. And Cody shot before me and had a flub. I think he flubbed a reload. And I'm like, okay, I was ahead going into this stage, and I just need to shoot solid. So I remember watching my video later, and it was exactly that. It was smooth and solid. Boom, load, shoot, and be done. And I knew I had essentially won at that point. Like, if I don't screw up, there's no way he can make back 40 points in the next 2 stages, as long as I shoot consistently.
Yeah. And
it was the first time that I had used that mental management. I hadn't gotten, freaked out. I was calm. I was smooth. And in the last stage, I remember thinking to myself, it was almost like I was watching myself shoot from behind my shoulder.
Cool.
Because I didn't have the pressure. I just needed to. It wasn't the pressure of, oh crap, I need to not screw up. It was the opposite. It was, just do your thing, man. Just do your thing and you win. You just do your thing and you're an area champion. And it was the first time where that all came together for me, not just shooting wise, but mental.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a win. Do you think it's helpful to shoot against maybe the person that you're trying to beat, like the top, or do you think it's better to not be on the same squad?
I think at the end of the day, it is a benefit because you know where you stand. You're shooting in the same conditions they are. Great example, a few years back, national championship and super squad shot facing into the sun on one stage, on our first or second stage.
Frost-proof.
And frost-proof. And it was hell. Every single person on the super squad had at least 1 Delta or 1 mic. Dang. Everyone. Some people had two Deltas, some people had 2 mics. It was horrible. We didn't win the stage. Somebody else did. And I was talking to them later, and they're like, yeah, man, I won that stage. And I was like, yeah, you didn't shoot facing into the sun.
Yep.
And trying to shoot a 20-yard partial, while crouching, not crouching because you have to shoot under a port, but just try to get the sun, behind the berm to be able to see. And I don't hate the person who said that. I get it. They're proud of it. They should be proud. But it's being able to shoot with the person that you're up against is important, purely from conditions. And I'm not saying that an MD should force, GMs to shoot together. I'm just saying that it can be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Knowing when to throttle or knowing when to gas it.
Knowing if a door is open for you or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is bad to secretly be like, yes.
Yeah. You find yourself going like, yes. Oh, I'm an asshole.
I'm like a horrible person. Yeah.
I'm a horrible person. Yes.
Oh man. My buddy Ryan, I borrowed his PCC one match, and that was the first time I've ever shot a major. I don't shoot PCC, but I almost beat him in his own gun. He'd already shot the day before, and he's like, I want to be excited for you because you just burn it the fuck down, but I really don't want you to beat me, especially with my gun. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Brad Balsley, AMU, runner-up to the Olympics in one of the shooting disciplines there. I talked him into borrowing my PCC to shoot the Pro-Am a few years ago, and he won PCC.
He's so
and I was like, you son of a bitch.
He wins everything in blocks too. That's how I met Ken, though, is through Brad.
Yeah. Brad's a goofball. Brad is a freaking goofball.
Yeah, he is. Oh man. Okay, going back to the titles too and the mental stuff, which you were talking about. What mindset does it take to win? And to, I guess, all the mental stuff, blocking out distractions, focusing on your stage, all of that. Can you train that?
Double plugging helps.
Okay.
So putting plugs in and then earmuffs over, that can help drown out the other distractions. I can tell you when you're in the hole or on deck, double plug, start ignoring your friends.
Yep.
And start visualizing. I don't mean visualizing where your feet are going to be. I mean, what is your sight picture going to look like? What are your hands doing? like the more detail you can visualize in, I'm not gonna say it's gonna help you necessarily, but it's a great step to getting in that mode, in that moment. The other thing is, if you go off plan, get back on plan as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It is a lot mental. It's not something that I feel like I can say in a podcast and boom, you're going to be an overnight success. It's that be cognizant of your own limitations. And I don't mean like, oh, you suck at XYZ, don't push it there. I mean, cognizant of what you suck at and work at that. Be real with yourself. Like I mentioned earlier with big stick loads being my problem. I don't even notice when I do a big stick load anymore. Not because I'm an amazing super duper person, who shoots so, oh my God, I'm amazing, but because I worked at it.
Yep.
Because I said, okay, I suck at this. Every single training session, I'm going to integrate this.
Oh, but John, you're an overnight success.
Yeah. It's identifying what in the Army, we have something called the OODA loop, OODA. Okay. It's a loop. It's a constant circle. And you're going to orient yourself to the situation. Or sorry, you're going to observe, you're going to orient, you're going to decide, and you're going to act. So you're going to orient yourself. Okay. What am I? I'm shooting right now. Okay. I'm going to observe. Okay. I suck at this. Okay. I'm going to decide how to fix it. I'm going to act, and then I'm going to start the cycle all over again.
Ooh.
And you can apply that to the stage as well, which is much harder to do. I'm not saying to do this, but you could technically do it. But being real with yourself and your training, not just your performance, but your goals. Mm-hmm. I spent most of the day, I spent 3 hours on the range today. I shot 500, 600 rounds with my coworker, and I had goals coming in. Okay, I want to get better about my index. I want to work this. So I'm going to work drills that specifically make me struggle on index. Yeah, I call it the gauntlet drill, going left and right, then left and right as you're going down a tunnel or down a corridor.
Yeah.
Because, you can fall into that trap really easily of just red on brown, pull trigger twice.
Right.
So orient yourself with what you suck at and go from there with the ways to correct it. Taking a class can help a lot, because having somebody else, Tim Herron is a great friend of mine. Look up his class. I'm sure he can help you. I hate teaching fundamentals. I teach movement here and there.
Well, Travis' class helped me out. When you were talking about processing, he was forcing where we had our eyes closed, we're down here, our guns here, and as soon as we're pushing out, opening our eyes, pulling triggers as fast as possible. Can I process the sights? Where am I lined up and that they are on target, and call my hits? Mm-hmm. All in the moment. You're not looking at the sights and the target and all of that. It's that middle ground of all of it, fast enough to move on. And like blind transitions were another. So that was cool. That's where
Travis is a great guy and good instructor.
Such a good teacher. Blew my mind. So I've had a lot of dry fire drills and stuff that I've worked with him, and he took the barriers away. So like if you've got like the blind transition of 2 stacked barrels and you're going from target to target, why do we slow down? Because we're afraid of this. Transition faster, and the target, it's going to be there. Mm-hmm. It's cool. I'm going to be there someday.
No, and that's one of the great things about this sport is that you have that not glass ceiling, you have that staircase.
Yeah.
And like, yes, physicality comes into play. Yeah. Like I said, I have 3 to 5 years left before my knee needs, is not up to it. I'm going to have a knee replacement in the next 20 years. I promise. Okay. And, I'm not broken yet to the point where I can't shoot, but it will, slowly but surely creep up on me to the point where it does greatly affect my shooting. So the main thing is that you realize your limitations, but work within them and try to overcome them. That guy who, excuse me, that mentor who was paralyzed, he still made master in steel challenge.
So cool.
In a wheelchair.
Yep.
Is he ever going to win steel challenge nationals? Probably not.
Yeah.
But he still achieved more than a lot of other people did who had both legs.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
more than me.
Yeah. So working within your limitations, and also maximizing the ability to take those into account, and a good example. So if you know you suck at something, okay, limit how much you do that until you've been able to work through it. So let's say you suck at long range steel. Hey, okay, that plate rack's 20 yards. I have the option to run up on it. Let's just plan for that until I've had time to really work on that.
Yep.
So you're maximizing your match performance while also reinforcing to yourself that you are going to work on this so it doesn't become a limiting factor down the road.
Later. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a good example. Okay, so you shoot and work a little bit, right, with Rafferty custom guns?
Yep, I got one of them. One of my twins right here.
Tell me about the gun. All the things.
So this is actually, I mentioned earlier, the KKM hybrid project, this Shooter's Connection. This was part of it. So I hold up the camera here. Binary 3-port compensator, KKM 5-inch overall length hybrid barrel with the cut down slide. And in this case, a Chile extra aggressive grip, Koenig hammer, EGW internals, and on this gun, these guns, the Range Panda convex thumb rest. So this has been a winning combination for Rafferty from performance-wise. I had a buddy who owns 4 SVs shoot it the other day, and he was like, "What the hell? That's the best. That's almost the same as my gun," and it's a good it's a great combo. The hybrid barrel, a little more weight, binary comp, really efficient. Some things that Rafferty does that some other Smiths don't is a lot more attention to detail, blending. But the main thing is his tri-top, for example, does not extend. It's a partial tri-top. It doesn't go all the way back. See if I can show the camera here. It stops right about here before the lug. So you get a little more reliability, longevity, because you're leaving all the meat you can above the locking lugs, stuff like that. But when it comes down to it is, I bought my first gun from Pat back in end of 17, right when I started working at Shooter's Connection. And I paid full price. I, talked with him a lot, and I realized that Pat met all my requirements. He was willing to build a hybrid, knew how to build a hybrid, did not get involved in Facebook or social media drama bullshit. He was communicative, and he was a good person. And it was someone I wanted to associate with. So I had my first gun from him, and by the beginning of, I think, 18, we had an arrangement. But he was a friend before any of that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sponsored by him. We have an arrangement, but I love shooting his guns. I paid. I don't get these guns for free. I'm not, there's a difference between someone who's sponsored and has an arrangement with someone. A great example is Pat and I have an arrangement where if I need work done and I know ahead of time I'm gonna need that work done, I don't get priority treatment. It's, hey man, I'm gonna be sending you my gun,
this is the deadline
on this date, can you hold my place in line?
Right.
Kind of thing. And the biggest thing you get with Pat is communication. He's going to tell you what if you screwed something up when you're shooting the gun or loading the ammo, he's going to tell you. But he is learning something new every day, and he likes creating a quality product. He puts more time and effort into hand blending each of these guns than I thought possible. But if you see me on the range, ask me. Be happy to let you put a few rounds through it. Cool. But the biggest downside to Pat is he only makes so many guns at a time. This is his side gig, and he pays a lot of attention to it, but he only has so much time to do it. I think he does 5 gun batches.
Cool. Okay. How long has he been doing that?
He's been building guns for 6 years, I think.
Neat.
Down there.
Neat.
So
do you know the wait time, if it was a year or?
It's between 9 months and a year right now, I think.
Yeah. And that's a whole industry anyways.
Yeah, it's everybody. But let's just say that Pat can't, he's been backlogged that much for a year and a half now, 2 years.
Cool. So before all the craziness.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. So going back to the industry too, I know we talked about Mark 7, Shooter's Connection. I wanted you to share, if someone wanted to go and work in, again, industry, not necessarily gun industry, but industry, what advice would you give them?
Be realistic. So don't come in with an expectation that you're going to be paid to shoot, or paid to shoot a lot, or paid to shoot guns at all,
or have
or have the time. Yeah, you're like I said, key word in that phrase is industry. But be ready to understand that it's a market with its own limitations and demands. So, the running joke that we have in my department is $500 client versus $50,000 client. The $500 client has all these expectations, like, please, we're trusting you, all this, that, and the other. And the $50,000 client says, money sent, thanks.
Yeah.
And you see that across, that is not gun industry specific. Mm-hmm. So with the gun industry, though, you have to be ready to understand that the client or a customer this may be their carry gun. This may be their work gun. This may be their doodad that they think is going to make them make GM.
Right.
Okay. So as opposed to someone who, buys a car and the alternator goes out, the expectation is maybe not, greater, but different. And when you get into the industry itself, you can start affecting it's hard to put it into really, really slick words here. But as you are, I'm sure, are aware, that the Second Amendment community, or the gun community, we like to eat our own. We like to put people on blast who may or may not deserve it in the industry, and we're loud. So keep that in mind before you decide the industry is for you. And I'm still in the gun industry, but the reloading industry is slightly different because it's not the tactical community. It's not the competition community. It is cross boundary when it comes to the industry. So it's a little bit different, but seeing the difference between commercial clients and consumer clients is very telling. The commercial client, machine doesn't work, they lose revenue. They lose the ability to put food on their table or pay their bills, compared to the consumer client who they have a lot of money tied up in this product, or they've invested a lot of money in this product, and they're having an issue, and they may not be able to make ammo for that match this weekend. Like, dude, that's not your mortgage, or that's not your, and that's not saying at all that we won't give the same, customer support, but it's something to understand. Like, in the industry, you have much different expectations within the same market.
Sure.
If you're an HVAC technician, the working on the HVAC from Walmart versus the HVAC for the guy, everyone doesn't want to sweat. Their expectations are pretty similar. The gun industry is a little bit different.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so what are your overall future goals in shooting and working in the industry? Like, what's next for you?
I think I found my home industry-wise. I want to continue this line. The innovation, like the Second Amendment's not going away anytime soon, as long as we keep doing our part.
As long as you're alive and I'm alive, and
and so continuing work in this sector is where I want to be. It's fulfilling. Shooting wise, I want to keep competing. I might change divisions down the road. Not today, not tomorrow, not a year from now, but eventually. And it gives me something to work towards. It gives me something to keep pushing towards. And at the end of the day, that's why I do this. It's a reason to get up in the morning. It's a reason to put effort in. Back in 2013, when I started competing, I had 3 things that kept me rolling: lifting weights, my wife, and shooting.
Love it.
And if I hadn't had all 3 of those, I don't know. I was in a really rough time in my life in that time for various reasons. And if I hadn't had those 3 pillars holding me up, I mean, I don't know where I'd be today. I really don't, because that was a very, very rough time in my life. So, the reason why you compete, Kenzie, versus somebody else competing or myself competing might be totally different. Hey, this is time away from the house, whatever, versus I want to get better with my carry gun and I want to be tactically proficient, versus someone like me who wants to win. They're all equally valid.
Yep.
However, what you get out of it is going to be directly proportional to what you put into it.
That's across the board on anything you do, I think, in life. Just about natural talent, but yeah, that's amazing. Any final thoughts you want to leave listeners with?
Don't get wrapped up in your own head. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're leaving a match, whether it's a major or a local, and you're feeling like shit, you only have yourself to blame. Okay. So how you react to yourself is going to reflect in how you feel about it. Learn from yourself, learn from each other. It's just a match. Okay. It took me a long time to really wrap that around my head. Okay. But if you're going out there to get better, and you screw up, take notes, work on it, take it as a goal. If you're going out there to win and you don't, same thing, take it as a goal, learn from it, take notes. But that can apply to life too. If you're still walking upright, you ain't in the ground yet, you can still learn, and you can still apply that energy forward. So you get what you put in.
Well said. Well said. Well, any shout outs you want to give to sponsors or people that support you?
Yeah, Mark 7 Reloading. If you want to step your reloading game up, load like you mean it, let us know. And we can help you out, whether you are wanting to automate your 1050 or 650 or wanting to load commercially. We can definitely help you out. Rafferty Custom Guns, there may be a backlog, but it's worth it. Shell Shock Technologies, the cases I use, they are the only cases I use for 9 major, and they're a little bit stronger than magnetic. I want to check them out, see if that's what you're up to. And lastly, LA Police Gear has been supporting me for about 5 years now. I wear their shorts every time I shoot. Their Vapor EDC shorts. Shoot me a message on my shooting page, John Vlieger -shooting, and I can get you a discount code for that. And almost forgot, Seymour, American-based company making optics, started the sport. So check them out. And if you need any of those things, chances are Shooters Connection carries it.
I love it. Yeah. And you already said social media handle. Do you have a website or anything else, or just go to Mark's?
I have a website currently, Instagram @GoShootWin, Facebook, John Vlieger -shooting is my shooting page. But be happy to answer any questions. Hit me up on Instagram or on Facebook. And other than that, man, be safe and get out there and shoot. Find some primers and shoot.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for all of your insight. I learned actually a lot myself. So till next time, we'll do it again.
Thanks for having me on, Kenzie.
Absolutely. Next time you hit your goal, we're going to have you back on and tell us how you got there.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thanks for listening. And tune in on the next Reticle Up episode.
Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.